Hi, my name is Ishmael, and I'm going to give a short summary and my take on the book The Smartest Kids in the World by Amanda Ripley. Um, this book encompasses three major areas of takes of education in top performing countries in the world. There's the example of Finland, where education is well valued, and there's a culture of educating yourself and compensating teachers accordingly. And on top of that, teachers in Finland are respected, are compensated for their labor, for the time, and students themselves take education as a core to being able to go into adulthood and succeed. In this example of Korea, where education is a very rigorous hierarchical system, in the sense that students work on schoolwork in their education classes, different materials such as mathematics, for more than 12 hours a day. There's this intense pressure cooker, as Amanda describes in the book, where students are expected to do the best they can because their future is directly tied to this testing, this kind of high education, highly geared, highly pressurized system. So students are always not only encouraged but placed in a situation where they realize that their future solely depends on how well they do in school. And so that creates this kind of pressurized education system. And so Amanda goes through goes through a story about, a student who from the United States who ends up going to Korea and realizing that this is, education on steroids, and probably the reason why Korea does at such a high level of when it comes to real world education. Then there's an example of Poland, and in Poland, it kind of gives the example of how it has had a mixed history as a country, from World War II to present day, and in less than probably 20 years, Poland has gone from being the lowest country, one of the lowest country in education. I think it was in 2003, 2012 to today, and be one of the top performing countries. And talks about how in Poland, for example, there isn't all these shiny new objects, these tools, these technologies that we have in the United States, right? But students in Poland still perform pretty high and pretty well. Um, my take from the book has been that the United States has focused on rewarding those who perform really highly and the wealthy, while ignoring those who need that extra help. And on top of that, America, the United States in general, has this culture of valuing sports, valuing this very individualized, hardcore, education model where sports and education isn't rewarded per se. What is rewarded are those few overachievers. But what this creates, it creates a culture where a lot of the students who don't get to become those overachievers, and not necessarily because they have some kind of, fallback in mental capacity, but rather because of other factors, um, those students in those school districts get ignored. Teachers don't get paid the way they should be. Education is not rewarded or compensated the way it should be. So in the United States, education isn't a profession considered prestigious, right? However, in Finland and Poland and other countries, education is considered a prestigious career. And so this kind of creates a culture where education isn't necessarily valued as it should be. So students don't actually put the energy or the effort into trying to perform as well as they can. Um, so in the United States, you have this kind of culture where there's so many tests that are rather easy to pass and don't require much thinking. So education loses its prestige, education loses its significance throughout the population. And the society as a whole, the United States starts falling behind in this education race. Right? Whereas in Finland and Poland and Korea, education is a prestigious way of entering adulthood. And by considering education majors, education career as a prestigious career that's honorable, these countries are able to actually infuse into the minds of their children that it matters to get an education, proper education, and actually succeed. And these countries have monopolized on this idea. And so, in general, I feel that the United States really must take this approach where education becomes a prestigious career rather than a commodity or rather than this hyper individualized race where some people will be left behind, contrary to the belief of no student, no child left behind. So that's kind of a quick summary of my takeaway from the book. Thank you.